Welcome to LAJA. LAJA is India's first forum for women development, by women, for women, and all about women development. Today, at LAJA's podcast, we have a very special guest, Miss Vandana Joshil. Vandana, welcome to LAJA's podcast.
Thank you so much.
Vandana is a COO to LAJA, but today we will want to know, Vandana, what is your profession? What do you do?
Absolutely. So yes, I started by saying that I am the COO at LAJA, and this is a position that I deeply cherish, deeply honor. And besides that, I am somebody who's been in the field of writing since over 2 decades. So I started my career as a sub-editor with the Indian Express online media. And that passion for wanting to make a difference in the world, wanting to change the world and report honest, true to life stories is something that I started off with. So I was with Indian Express, learnt a lot from there, and then moved on to corporate communications, moved on to writing for publications, moved on to writing for magazines, ghost writing books, ghost writing speeches. And very recently, I also launched my book of bedtime stories for children. And so writing is something that's in my blood. Content is something that I love looking at and writing for people. So I am out and out a writer.
Absolutely out and out a writer. Yeah. Wherein I personally keep looking for some vocabulary words where I can learn and maybe teach my own child. I don't have to really go far away, just read your articles and that's
Thank
enough.
you.
Since you already said that writing means the blood to you, right? What made you foray into writing the stories for children?
That's an interesting story by itself. So I've learned storytelling, story writing from a very young age. And I'd say I've learned it because my mother, my late mother, was a very, very good storyteller. And it's from her that I learned the art of storytelling. So my mother was a teacher, and she used to take tuitions also. And what I saw in her is that whenever she had to teach her students some fact or some news article, she would convert that into a story.
Oh, nice.
So there would be main characters, there would be a setup, there would be a situation, there would be an incident, and then she would convert that into a story and narrate it to her children. So children as young as maybe 7 years old or as old as maybe 13 years old, they would remember that news article. And the fact that, some of these children came from homes where nobody even accessed a newspaper. Now, of course, you have a lot of news channels. But during those days, people never used to really look at news channels. So she used to be able to tell these students. So they were all aware of all the latest things happening in the world.
Wow.
And so from her, I learned this, I realized how important or what an impact storytelling does. So when I had my own children, I would narrate stories to my daughters before they could start reading. So I would narrate stories to them, and I would do this every night just before they went to sleep. And from there on, when I used to tell them stories, they would listen in rapt attention. And then I realized that I was good at storytelling is when, I would read something and I would go sit down and, when I was talking to my friends or the women who live in my building, and I realized that one fine day I was telling them a very simple story. It was a WhatsApp joke which I converted into a story. And when I was telling them that story, the rapt attention with which they sat there listening to me, and then when the finale came, they were like, this is what you meant, That is when I realized that, yes, I think storytelling is something that I can do. And that's how I launched myself or deep dived into this world of storytelling.
That's so interesting. And yes, not everybody has that cup of tea of telling stories. Yeah, so that's very, very interesting. But since you just mentioned that, while you had that interest coming from your mother and,
Yes.
majorly bedtime stories for your own kid, But you have also narrated some stories to the building adults,
Yes.
right? What are the differences when it comes to stories for adults and stories for children?
Okay, this is a very, it's a lovely question because storytelling per se is not very different for children or adults. The main idea, the crux of the matter is that you need to keep them engaged. The difference, the very immediate difference that you can see is for a child, your vocabulary, your sentences have to be short, they have to be simple, they have to be very animated. So if I'm talking about a tiger, when I'm telling an adult about a tiger, I can, describe a tiger, describe the black and orange lines on a tiger or the ferocious look of a tiger. But when I'm telling a child this, I'll have to probably growl. Wow, that kind of a thing. And the emphasis is on animating it for the child. And what I realized is, if your child, whoever you're telling a story to, if the child is in the center of the story, so the child is the protagonist of the story, then you can be rest assured that the child is going to remember the story for the rest of his or her life, and will also ensure that they recite this story or narrate the story over and over and over again. So I've made my point, I've told a story, and I've ensured that I have an audience who's going to keep on repeating this over and over again. And that is the big difference between storytelling to a child and an adult, because in an adult's case what happens is you will bring in your own imagination or your own style of telling a story. And like you said, not everybody can tell stories. So I rest my case.
Absolutely so true. And that animation, I think that made that major difference when it comes to saying a story to an adult and saying a story to a children.
Absolutely.
That's nice. I think there are a lot of story writers, right?
Yes.
What sets you apart when it comes to story writing, as you have recently launched your book?
Yes. So what sets me apart, I won't say I'm the best of story writers. I know there are many others out there who are brilliant storytellers. Now the difference that I see in myself and how I differentiate myself is that I pick up incidents, or I take inspiration from real life incidences. And I do not tell the stories as they are. I try to add a little bit of who I am into these stories. So for instance, if I mention this book, there is a story about a girl named Achu, and she's called Achu because she has this habit of sneezing. She's very allergic, so she keeps sneezing. Now I picked that up because my husband has this really loud sneeze, and I know that whenever he sneezes, all of us who are sitting next to him get a jolt. And I always make fun of him for that. But then I realized that he cannot help it. It's who he is. So I picked up that, that feature or that characteristic of my husband, gave it to a girl. And so in the story what happens is, she is always mocked for this loud sneeze of hers. But over the course of the story, towards the end, it is this sneeze of hers which makes the robbers who come to rob her house drop something. So she sneezes, they drop the thing, whatever they have picked up, and the entire house gets to know that there are robbers in the house. They call for help, and so these robbers get caught. So Achu, who was teased for having this loud sneeze, that became like her crown. So then she became, Achu, the girl who scared robbers off. So those are kind of stories. So there's another story of a girl who's Chutki because she's short, and I take inspiration from the fact that I am short. Growing up, I was the shortest in my group, and I know how much I've suffered, bullied for being short. But I never let that impact who I am now. So I wanted that girl to realize that, you're short, you're tall, it doesn't make a difference. Accept who you are.
Correct.
And go on from there. Use that. That is something special and unique to you. So use that. And there you have a story on Chutki, who managed to do something remarkable. So all of these stories come from real life. They teach. The main aim of all of these is to let people, or whoever, the children who are going to be reading this, let them know that it's okay to be whoever you are or whatever you are. Accept it. Use that as your tool and move forward.
That's so interesting. I think I have read this book as soon as you had launched.
Thank you.
And now I'm able to more relate. And now I feel that yes, if this kind of stories we had in our childhood, yeah, we would have been able to accept ourselves much before in our life than now that we are able to accept of whatever flaws we have. Yeah.
True.
That is majorly your unique point.
Absolutely.
That's so nice. 2 decade of experience, Vandana, moved from genre to genre, right? What was your experience been there and what you look from the past?
So, like I said, I started off with journalism because that was my dream, to write news, to report news as it is happening and be very honest and change the world. But once I got into the field, I realized that it's not what it seems. You have to make a lot of edits. You have to fine tune a story based on who your biggest advertiser is. And then I realized that I'm not being honest to what I want to do. And so I gave up, writing for the newspaper, and then I joined a corporate office.
Okay.
Over there, the pay was very good, and the kind of experience and the kind of network you build is amazing. But then what I realized is my love for writing, my passion for writing comes from the fact where I am able to pick up words. No, I'll correct myself. I am able to pick up your emotions and your thoughts and convert them into words. So I keep telling people, whoever asks me what is the kind of content you write, I keep telling them that I have the ability to pick up your emotions and your thoughts and convert them into readable, comprehensible, simple content. And if that resonates with whoever is reading, I think you have won, I have won, and that
everything is a win-win.
Yes, it's a win-win for all involved in this.
Absolutely, and I think I could see that kind of a reflection in your book as well.
Absolutely.
Where the exact emotions of being either sneezing or short-sighted or whatever was so correctly and that too very positively placed in all your work. Lovely, that's so nice.
Thank you.
What change do you hope that your stories will make?
Yes, so like I told you, these stories are from real life. These stories, at the end of every story, there is a life skill that you have learned. So whether you're talking about empathy, whether you're talking about acceptance, whether you're talking about courage, these are things. Now, of late, we are emphasizing a lot on teaching our children life skills.
Correct.
Now, I think you don't need to go to a school to learn these life skills. As a parent, you can teach your child this life skill. So you can teach your child to start sharing from a very young age. You can teach your child to be empathetic. When you see a beggar on the road, you're not going to shun that beggar or look away in disgust. You have to understand how that person got there. Or maybe you don't even need to understand how that person got there. You have to understand that that person is probably looking at something that you have. And if it is in your capacity to give that, do it. So empathy. So these are life skills which I have very simply woven into my stories. And I hope that when a child reads it, the child understands it. But more importantly, when a parent reads it to the child, the parent is able to very easily convey the importance of these life skills to their child.
Nice.
And that is the big change that I hope this book can bring about.
That's so brilliant. And I'm very much sure that this change is sure to happen. But
Amen to that.
absolutely. What next from here, Vandana?
Next. So this book was I'd say a lifelong dream. I've been sitting on this book for ages. And now that this book is out, I've realized that there is a responsibility.
Absolutely.
There is a responsibility to keep writing, to keep bringing out books, and to keep addressing issues that we can see our children facing. So, people complain about children being addicted to the, phones,
Devices.
people being addicted to substances of late. So, how do you bring that change? During our time, these substances were available, but we were not doing that because we were so busy being ourselves, playing, being with friends. Now we have curtailed that.
Correct.
So, if these books can teach our children, can connect them back to their roots, can connect them back to reality, I think that is the responsibility that I have. So, that is what happens next. I keep
Lovely.
writing, I keep addressing issues, and I keep writing books which will make an impact.
Cannot wait to have your next book, Vandana, and hope to have it absolutely soon.
Yes, keep your fingers crossed.
Thank you so very much, Vandana, for being here and telling us all about stories.
Thank you so much. The pleasure has been all mine. Thank you.